Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer and welcome to Best Kept Plans. Today's video is something new and exciting that I'm really looking forward to being able to share with everyone here on YouTube, and that is my love of reading. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I have gotten back into reading over the last month or so, and I have been sharing all of the books that I've been reading over on my Instagram. I want to be able to do the same thing here on YouTube. And so this video is going to be all about the books that I read in February 2022. If you're interested in seeing that, please stick around. So as I said in the introduction, this video is going to be all about the books that I read in February 2022. That is when I got back into reading. It was about the second week in February that I started reading again, and I just started reading like crazy. I ended up reading 11 books in the month of February that I'm really excited to share with you all. First off, I do want to show you all my reading journal. So this is a journal from Archer and La Olive. It is a collaboration with B. Harris. I absolutely fell in love with this journal. I think the pattern is stunning, and when I received it, I thought it would be perfect for a reading journal, a way for me to keep track of all of the books that I have been reading, my reading of the books, favorite quotes from the books, stuff like that. So I will be referencing this journal as we move through this video. Bear with me. This is the first time I'm doing a video like this. This is also the first time I'm showing my face here on YouTube, I think. I did just take a shower, so I have wet hair, but it's the only chance I was gonna have to record this video. So let's get started. The first book that I read in February that got me back into reading was Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. So this is my second Sally Rooney book. I did read Normal People after having seen the miniseries on Hulu. I absolutely fell in love with the Normal People miniseries. I thought it was incredible, and after I watched it, I found out that it was a book. I read Normal People, the book. I loved it. I think I read it in one day. It was such a wonderful read, and so when I stumbled into a bookstore in February and saw this, I instantly knew that I wanted to read it, and I was not disappointed. I really, really liked this book. Sally Rooney has like a great way of being able to write about complex topics or complex emotions in a very like easy to digest and read way. And I really appreciate that as a reader and just thoroughly enjoyed this book. I also found out that it is going to be made into a mini series as well, so that'll be interesting. And I ended up giving this book 4 stars. Next, we have my first book from Taylor Jenkins Reid. She has been all over BookTube and Instagram, and when I got back into reading, I did watch a ton of videos here on YouTube. I looked at a ton of accounts on Instagram, bookstore accounts on Instagram, and she was popping up everywhere. So I did end up purchasing Malibu Rising. I have to say, this is the book that I purchased from her first because I just love the cover. I think the cover is absolutely gorgeous. I love the blue. I love the bright pink and yellow. It's so pretty, and it just caught my eye right away. And the book itself did not disappoint. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. It is about a family and family dynamics, and it's about, having to live with the decisions of other family members and how that can influence your life and the route your life takes. And I really love this book. It's told in a couple of different timelines, which I've realized I actually really like in books. I like it as a way of getting to know a character's history or the history of a relationship between two characters. So this was a really fantastic read, and it made me want to read more Taylor Jenkins Reid. Next, we have a book by Emily Henry. It's the second book I've read from her, and that is People We Meet on Vacation. So towards the beginning of the pandemic, I ended up getting into a book club with a couple of planner friends on Instagram, and we read Beach Read. I loved it. I read it in one day. I thought it was so good. And so when I saw this at the store, I definitely wanted to pick it up and read it. I really enjoyed this book. I will say that I think it's the UK version of this book is called Me and You on Vacation, or You and Me on Vacation. And I think that's a much better title than People We Meet on Vacation. This book is really not about people that the main character or the main characters meet on vacation. It's actually about two main characters and all the vacations that they go on together. So I really like the UK title a lot more than the US title. I wish they didn't have a separate US title, but the book itself was really, really great. It's also told in two different timelines. Again, something I realized that I really like in books. And I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, we have something a little different. I have never really read mystery or thriller books, and I ended up picking this one up at the bookstore. I don't think I had really seen it on BookTube at all. I might have seen it on a couple people's Instagram accounts, but I really wanted to give it a try, and that's The Last Thing He Told Me. This was I enjoyed it. I liked the characters in it. I liked the kind of idea of the story and the mystery. I do think that the main character stumbled into the mystery a little conveniently or easily, which was, to me, I think, a bit of a bummer, kind of a little bit of a letdown. And if you've read this book, then you might know what I mean. Like, I think she conveniently stumbled into getting to where she needed to get to solve this mystery in the book. But I did enjoy it overall. I gave it 3.5 stars. Definitely don't regret reading it. And if you're into mysteries, then I think you'd probably enjoy it. It's a good, quick, easy read. Next, we have my first 5-star rating. I have also never really read romance. Beyond reading Beach Read by Emily Henry, I don't think I've ever really read romance before. And so or at least adult romance. And so I kept seeing this book all over BookTube. Everyone was raving about it. I decided to pick it up, and I was not disappointed at all. I love this book, and that is The Hating Game. It's so good. I think it does romance perfectly. I love that it is enemies to lovers. I like that it's a workplace romance. I enjoyed the bickering and the banter back and forth between the two main characters. It held my attention the entire way through, and I just loved this book. I loved the characters. I loved the storyline, and it was 100% a 5-star read for me. If you're someone who has not really gotten into romance and you want to give it a try, I think this is a great book to start out with. If you're someone who has read romance before and you just happen to not have picked this book up, pick it up. It's so good. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. The Hating Game definitely got me into a bit of like a romance binge. I kind of went crazy with romance after reading The Hating Game, and the next romance that I read was Red, White, and Royal Blue. This is another book that I was seeing all over BookTube, and everyone was saying was so incredible, and I thought it was a really interesting topic. And so I picked it up, and again, I was not disappointed. I thought this was a really, really great book. It explores sexuality, it explores familial responsibilities, it explores duty, and whether you put that duty ahead of your own personal wants and needs. It has a lot of really interesting topics in it, and it's just written really well, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to read Casey McQuiston's other book because I enjoyed this one so much. This was a solid 4-star read for me. So next we have a couple more romance novels that were really hyped up on BookTube, really hyped up all over Instagram. And then when I read them, I felt like I was kind of let down. And I think I might have done that to myself. I think that maybe I let my expectations grow too high because they were so hyped on BookTube and Instagram. I also think that I hadn't realized as I was reading them, but I was reading a lot of romance in a row, and also I was reading a lot of enemies to lovers in a row. So The Hating Game was an enemies to lovers trope, and so was Red, White, and Royal Blue. And the next two books that I read were also enemies to lovers. So I read 4 of them in a row, and I think that was just too much. I think it was just too much of that same trope all at once. And so the next book that I ended up reading was The Spanish Love Deception. It is another workplace romance as well, similar to The Hating Game, but I just felt like where The Hating Game allowed me to get a little bit deeper with the characters and really had that fantastic banter back and forth, this book lacked in those areas. And so in the end, while I enjoyed reading it, it just didn't pack as much of a punch for me. It didn't land as well for me. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't feel like it was as good as it had been hyped up to be. Next, very similarly, like I said, we have The Unhoneymooners. So this is another one all over BookTube. I definitely saw a couple of videos where people gave this 5 out of 5 stars, that they absolutely loved it. I think I liked it a tiny bit more than The Spanish Love Deception, but again, overall, I felt like I was just a little bit let down. The book also like totally changes plot in like the last quarter of the book. And while I thought it was an interesting plot line, I kind of felt odd that the story went that way or went there. They alluded to it throughout the book, but yeah. And so another enemies to lovers, not bad, not great. Again, I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. Next, we have a book by Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover is an author similar to Taylor Jenkins Reid that's all over BookTube, all over Instagram. Everyone loves her novels, and I've never read her before. I talked with a couple of my friends, and they had read her and really enjoyed her stories. And one of my friends had actually just read Verity and told me that she highly recommended it. So I picked it up, gave it a try. I ended up reading this in one day because I was sucked into the mystery of it, and I really wanted to find out what happens. And I think for at least the first half of the book, like I was invested, I was all in. I think that towards the end, the story, it almost like makes my skin crawl and like makes me uncomfortable in a way. And so my final rating on this was 3.5 stars, kind of because of that. I'm definitely team manuscript. I think that I kind of have to be team manuscript to like be somewhat okay with the ending, even though I'm not okay with the ending. But it certainly was a very intriguing read, and it definitely kept my attention and made me want to keep reading on. And I'll definitely read more Colleen Hoover. I have not read more of her books yet, but I certainly will. Next, we have another 5-star read. I love this next book so much. I just think it's absolutely wonderful. And if you have not read it, I highly recommend. This is another one where if you're not familiar with romance and you want a good book to get into romance, this would do the trick. And that is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. So this is the second book I've read from Christina Lauren, the first being The Unhoneymooners. And I was a little nervous to read another one of their books so quickly because I didn't love The Unhoneymooners, but this was one that was talked up a lot on BookTube, and I wanted to give it a try, and I ended up falling in love with it. It is a kind of like a coming of age romance, and it's told in 2 different timelines. Again, something that I find I really, really enjoy. The characters are just, I adore them, and their relationship I adore, and I just think it was written so well, and I loved everything about this book, and I actually can't wait to read it again. I like it so much. 5 stars for sure. Now, the last book that I ended up reading in the month of February was Daisy Jones and the Six. Again, I really loved Malibu Rising from Taylor Jenkins Reid, so I was excited to get into another book from her. One thing I will say is that I'm kind of bummed that I didn't think to get the audiobook for this and listen to the audiobook, because I've heard that it is absolutely incredible. This story is told in a very unique way. It is told in an interview format, and beyond just being told in an interview format, there isn't really even a narrator, or you don't get the perspective of the person conducting the interview. It literally goes just from one character to the next, to the next, to the next in telling the story. And I think that's super unique, really interesting. It is done so well, and it works really, really well for this book, for what the book's about. I think it's being made into a movie or a mini series. If it is, I can't wait to watch it. It's a love story. It's a rock and roll story. It's just about art and passion, and I really, really enjoyed it. Highly recommend. I ended up giving this 4 stars. So those are the 11 books that I read in February 2022. If you have any comments or questions about them, do not hesitate to put them down below. If you're going to include any spoilers, maybe put that right at the top. That way, if people haven't read some of these books, they don't get them spoiled. I'm so excited to be sharing this hobby of mine here on YouTube. I do intend on sharing with you all the books that I read in March 2022. I'm also going to be sharing with you all a book haul that I just recently did. Get ready, because I'm going to be wearing the same shirt. I'm going to have my same wet hair, because I'm going to film all those videos in a row for you all now that I have a chance to. And I hope that you all will stick around for more videos like this. As always, everyone, please be safe. Bye-bye.